My dog now is starting to get more and more anxiety, and he's pushing himself under the chairs and under the van, and he's starting to shake a little. Just before that, the wind kicked up for a second. There was no wind the whole time. And as soon as that wind kicked up, he went from frightened to terrified. My name is Mark Orban. I was born in Bellflower, California, but grew up pretty much in Grants Pass. 8 brothers and 3 sisters. We rode motorcycles all the time. I mean, just dirt bikes in the hills. Did a lot of stuff out in the hills, the mountains around Grants Pass. And I heard a lot of Bigfoot stories back then, but never really even, didn't pay much of attention to them, just because I kind of thought it was crazy, you know, until it happened to me. And that was probably in the middle to late 80s. It was after high school. So I graduated in '83. So it was a few years after high school. And we used to do a lot of 4x-in and stuff back then. It had the lifted Toyotas, you know. And I had a buddy that had a lifted Toyota, and we wanted to go out. This was on a weekend, and after going to the bars, wanted to go up to the snow. So we brought some beer with us. He had a girl that I think he just met, and headed up toward the snow. And I think this was about, I want to say October, November. We were trying to get in the first part of snow, and but anyways, we went ways out of north of Grants Pass, and went up this basically an old skid road, and it had a turnaround clearing that was just cut away from the side of the bank. That's kind of how you had back then. They either had home sites or logging sites or something like that, you know. But turned the truck around, and it was parked probably, I'd say maybe 10 foot from the edge of the embankment that's going up the hill. And he got out with the girl, and they were rolling around on the other side, playing in just barely whatever snow that was there. And I was leaning on the truck on the driver's side and drinking a beer. And we just started basically drinking. We weren't even, not like we were drunk or something, but you know. I'm sitting there, and I remember it was very calm, very, very calm night. And we probably had been there for not very long at all, maybe 15, 20 minutes, I'm guessing. It could have been a little longer. But I'm leaning up against the truck, just behind the cab on the bed. And when I looked up the hill, it was probably maybe 50 yards up, and you could see the tree line, and you could see the moonlight from behind there, basically the silhouette of all the trees. And I noticed one tree that was probably about this tall, just looked like a perfect little Christmas tree. And I noticed it moving, and that's what caught my eye. Is everything else, nothing was moving up there, yeah, and it's pitch black, and other than nothing silhouetted up there. But this thing's moving like this, and it's kind of doing this type of thing. And so I'm standing there, I'm looking up at it, and finally I yell at my buddy, "Hey, Mike, come on over here." And he comes over, and I go, "Take a look at that." And he looks at it, and because that's some animal or something up there, you know. So I'm looking, I'm going, well, I'm gonna go find out what it is, because I was, back then I didn't care. I was gonna walk up through the woods. Well, and I, to this day, I can't remember what I did with that empty bottle, because I remember I slugged the last bit of my beer, and I don't know if I threw it at it. I to this day, I still, every time I've talked about it, I wonder what I did with that bottle, you know, like if it matters, I don't know. But as soon as I made maybe 2 steps, if that, this thing had stood up. It stood up and it walked to the side, and at that instant I was like, who in the hell's up here? You know, it was, we were out, I mean, no place, and I'm thinking, who the hell is this, you know? And about that time, you know, all this went through me in a matter of a second, and I started just, at the same time, there was just, you could tell it was just breaking huge branches or something, and this warbling sound came and just, and it shook. And at the same time, the branches were breaking. This thing, everything's moving down toward me, and yeah, I freaked out. I remember turning around, going to the truck. My buddy had already went around, and the girl, they were already in the truck. I didn't see them go in. They were in it and dove down into the passenger side. I got in, and this thing was coming down like a freight train. It was just coming down through the woods. Basically, I jumped up into the Toyota, and it's lifted too, so I had to get up into the thing, turn the keys on, and I remember I fired that thing up, and I remember it's right here, and I just remember kind of like, sorry, kind of like when you're a little kid. Sorry. Yeah, Jesus. Wow. Never had that. I mean, I've gotten through these things pretty good, but for some reason right there, you know. But it was like I was a little kid looking through, you know, a scary movie, wanting to see it, but sure didn't want to see it, you know. And anyways, so when I fired that up, lights come on the dash, I think, and I could see a little bit of this area filling the whole window, and I just floored it, you know. And the truck went sideways, and to this day, I'm not sure if it hit the back of the truck, went down into the ditch, and I just kept flooring it, you know. And thank God I didn't wreck this thing, because it was, yeah, it was just terrifying, you know. And like I said, I remember I didn't do this that I can remember. I'm pretty sure I did, you know, like I said, like you're a little kid, you watch a movie like that or something, like it's gonna help you. So, but yeah, it was extremely terrifying, and got the heck out of there. And didn't talk about it for a while afterwards, you know. And then I started telling some people. The other friend that was with me didn't want to. I tried talking to him about it. He never did till he passed, and never wanted to speak about it. So I don't know exactly what I know he didn't see what I seen, because before I even turned around, he was already in the car and down under. But you know, there was no mistaking what that was, as far as me concerned, you know, because there's just the noise too. That was another thing that it reverberated in my chest, and just the whole thing. And the weird thing is the fear. I don't know if it's just the fear of, I don't know why I got so afraid too, because back then I really wasn't much afraid of stuff, you know. But something just overwhelmingly, yeah, I remember just right at that point when it was there was just this dread, you know, like I was gonna die. So yeah, I don't know, did not like it. So on the car ride home, Not absolute nothing, silence, nothing. I don't remember even saying a thing. It was, I don't think we spoke at all. I do remember speaking later, probably months later, and didn't want to talk about it, The friend didn't. So he, and it took me probably a while before I started talking about it. And then, I actually told one of my brothers, because he said that when he was hunting in an area that he swore there was Bigfoot up there, and then I kind of told him this is what happened, and then just slowly started telling people through the years and got a little better at it, coming to terms with it. And then I actually heard probably, I don't know how many years later, I seen a program and it had the Sierra sounds. And there was a sound on that tape that was almost exactly the same, that just warbling noise, but just, if you can imagine the kids that play the stereos, that's just bassing, it was like that. It was almost, it's like it was a attack with just sound. And I don't know if that maybe also was what got me so afraid. It just shook inside you. But yeah, so I started telling it years and years and years later, slowly started hearing stuff from other people, and working at the hospital for 37 years plus, I've had doctors come up to me and tell me stories. We'll be sitting down at the lunch table a couple times, and somebody will ask me from my department, and hey, tell a story, so-and-so story, and I'll tell them, and then a few people laugh, and then I had a doctor come up to me a little bit later, and hey, I was up hiking in this area and had this happen. So anyways, so I could fast forward now up to this last year. A friend of mine it was my daughter's ex-boyfriend's friend, and now we become friends, and his dad worked with my brother. They elk hunt up in this same area where my brother wouldn't go, and just through the years I ended up finding out that they had certain stuff go on up in this area. Got to be really good friends with Christian Witcherly, and he came over to my house one day and said, hey, Greg Roberts, which does the Rogue Weather, he said he's doing this Bigfoot town hall, and he goes, can you put it on your big screen? Because I got a big 75-inch screen at home. I said, sure. So I did it up there, and Greg started talking about wolves. And he says, yeah, I want to do a wolf talk over at the Sportsman Show in Medford. So I thought, oh. So I messaged him and said, hey, I got a wolf. You want to do if you want to show people. So I got to know Greg through that, ended up showing him at his wolf talks, and then kept in contact with him about wolf, because he does the tracking for ODFW on wolves, and he's real knowledgeable on it. And anyways, he approached me last year with a crazy idea. He said, out of Butte Falls area, kind of. I don't want to give up where he's at, but he says he's had this Bigfoot activity where he goes. He says, hey, would you mind taking Appa up there with me? I want to see how he reacts in this area. And he goes, because there's a wolf pack up there too. And he goes, I'm trying to figure out if there's any kind of interactions between wolves and Bigfoots. So mind you, it's been years now. So I'm thinking, sure, the best case scenario for me is going to be the wolves will come in, and maybe my Appa, that's my dog's name, he'll start howling and maybe bring them in, and this will be really cool, we'll have wolves, And that's really where my mindset was. So I have a van, and I went with my brother, and Greg was in front of us. We left at about 11 o'clock at night. We were supposed to be there till 4 in the morning. And so we drove up to this place, and it's pretty darn remote also. But on the way up there, my dog's got his nose out the window and he's sniffing everything, just going to town. And in fact, we went through some open cattle areas and he's just all alert, you know. Well, we started up toward the ridge where we were going to stop, and Appa starts kind of darting back and forth through the windows, kind of real strange. I thought it was strange. And right then, Greg just stops in the middle of the road, and he's looking, and I'm watching him, and I'm okay. All of a sudden, then he takes off, all right? So when he takes off, we do a turn, and I remember looking, and I thought I seen movement, but then I thought, I just discounted it because I thought maybe it was like a shadow, the tree just kind of, when your headlights move, this tree shadow, because it was big, but I just didn't, you know, I really didn't even have Bigfoot at all on the mind, to tell you the truth. So we went up another probably 2 miles, parked in the spot, and it was almost the same as like what I had happened to me in the 80s. And just a turnaround barely, and a ridge going up, and this ridge maybe went up not quite as far. It was hard to tell though, because it was black, you know, just super dark. Turned around, sat there, laid out my dog's bed, and he sat there, was fine for a while. My brother took him down the road, and I actually had an Axiom thermal imager, and Greg had a night vision. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get some footage of wolves. I really was still on the whole wolf thing. And so my brother probably went from here to all those people there, was that 30 yards or so, or he was about that far down this road. And it's a forest dirt road, so it's not really much of a road. But I'm watching him, and I watch Appa kind of just start looking down the road, and he's real alert, you know. Well, then my brother comes back. Now Appa's really kind of alert down the road. And so my brother takes him down the road to pee again, and this time he gets part way down, and he just stops, and he's just looking straight down the road, and then he starts looking down the ridge side like this, and I'm watching him through the thermal, and my brother's just, of course, he can't see anything, but Appa's seeing something, and he starts backing up. So I'm going, this is weird. So he pulls on Chris, and Chris, oh, okay. So Appa comes back, and now he sits next to us, and he's backed up, and he's just focused down this ridge area. And then a couple times he stood up and just kept looking. Well, my brother, when he came back, says he thought he heard foot crunching down in this area. And so I'm focused down there. Greg's over, he's more down that area, and he hears something now down there. And Appa now is just full alert. He's just, I think Greg has a picture of him, and you just see him, and you see me looking too. And I'm kind of reacting to him, because without him, if I didn't see him, I probably wouldn't have, I would have been oblivious to anything happening. All of a sudden would shift his focus to the ridge above us. And he kept doing that. Actually, when he was backing up, he was doing that too. And he kept looking down here, and then he would shift and be turned around looking, and I'm going, what is going on here? I don't hear anything up here. I hear something down here. So I'm focused down here with the thermal imager, and as soon as I turn away, Greg says, hey, I see one, you know, see it. And I turn back and I see a figure go behind a tree, like just white, you know. And now I'm going, okay, what was that? Because I didn't get it clear. He says he's seen it full body. And so now I'm going, okay, what's going on here? Did you really see this? What? We're all focused down here, and it's still, you can still kind of hear it, just like a little crunch or something. But Appa keeps turning around and looking up here. So finally, I'm like, I need to figure out what's going on over here. So I stood up and I look with the thermal imager and I see this anomaly, kind of. And I still can't I still to this day can't figure out whether it was the heat signature from behind foliage, but it looked like a blobish, and it looked like heat rising off the ground, like distorting the thermal, just a grayish, just a different color than the black background, and not white hot, but just shimmering, and it's moving. So now I got to get it recorded. Well, the problem with that stupid thing, there's no record button on it. You have to get on your phone, get on the app. So I do that. Oh, let me rewind that. At first, I thought it was my antenna ball on my van, because my van was right there. So I reached out, and no, the van's back here. Okay. It was that dark. You couldn't see nothing without any lights on. So I'm going, okay, it's not that ball. So I go, what is this thing? Well, you know, I try to record it. It's gone. As soon as I light up the phone and the light, it's gone. I'm back up there looking. Well, my dog now is starting to get more and more anxiety, and he's pushing himself under the chairs and under the van, and he's starting to shake a little. So I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna put it. I told Greg, I felt bad because I wanted to get out of there. You know, I didn't want to be there, but I felt bad because this is Greg. He does this all the time, and really, the way that, you know, he was, I figured, well, I'm ruining this Bigfoot thing that he does, you know. So, and Greg's, no, we can go, you know. And I think he actually got a little more than he figured was going to happen too, because it was literally, these things, you could just tell it was something that was surrounding us, and he knew it. I put him in the van, and he literally, oh, that was just before that, the wind kicked up for a second. There was no wind the whole time. And as soon as that wind kicked up, he went from frightened to terrified. Terrified. Just clawing, just wanted in the van. Went in the van, he dove down into the passenger side area, and he's sitting there with his paws out and shaking, you know. Eyes are just big. So now I'm just like, okay, well, now Greg's up. Greg gets over to us, and hey, we can go. My brother's in there trying to calm him down. So I had a spotlight sitting there, so I grabbed that spotlight, and I walked around the back of the van and just shined it right there. Well, that's when I realized how thick it was. It was just like a wall right there. But as soon as I did that, probably just right off to where I did it, 10 feet, like maybe from here to that log there, what is that, 15, 20 feet, if that, next to the van, just the bushes and trees just exploded. Just this thing, like a bear. I've seen bears blow through, you know, trees and stuff, and just like that. And I tried to track it, and I just blackness moving, and whatever it was, it moved fast. But that's the first time I realized there actually was one right there. You know, this one, I'm guessing, was trying to just keep us occupied while this came in super, super close. And I would have, without him, we wouldn't have known, we would have probably never heard that one, never even looked down there, and wouldn't have known until something came up and tapped us on the shoulder. And so that was real unnerving, and that didn't sit well with me either. And then Appa wouldn't get in my van for probably 2 months or so. It was a while. And he'd always jump in that van to go for a ride, you know. If it's a wild animal out there, you know, it's a totally different reaction, and it's not a fear, it's a, what is that? And then, like if it's a deer, I'm after it. If it's a coot, well, I had to take him to the vet, 50 plus stitches from a cougar next door. And that's a whole nother story itself, but make it quick. I took him over there. My brother used to live next door. This is in Murphy area. And I took him over there one time. I'd always take him over there and just let him go on his property. And I took him and my older dog. Luckily, she didn't go in the same spot. He went down by the creek, and I heard some commotion. I couldn't really hear it because my brother had a diesel truck running. So I go down there and make sure he's not getting in trouble. And he comes back up and he's got blood all over him. He's got blood in his mouth. And I first thought, oh crud, he got into my neighbor's ducks, and because he's never done that before though, because he's super gentle. Well, then I found just claw marks. Just I mean, they were, I thought a bear, I actually thought a bear. So I took him to the vet. He had bit it because he had blood in his mouth, and took him to the vet, and they found a sheath of a mountain lion in him. And we found, actually there was a deer carcass down there on one of the, there was tree stands that my brother had where this kid raced motocross. So this thing had drug a deer up into this tree stand that's probably about 10 foot high, where they used to film him riding. So yeah, so actually for months after that, he kept going back there because he wanted payback, I'm guessing. But yeah, he wasn't afraid of, you know, which a cat half his size would tear him up. Even though he's big, it's just scary. But the cat never came back. We put trail cams down there, and it never came back. You know, so I don't know who won that battle, but I lost because it cost quite a bit. It was 50 plus stitches and a cone of shame and all of that for a while. So, but yeah, bears, you know, my neighbor shot a bear and had the paw, and he showed him, and you know, he was, what the heck, and bark at it or woof at it, you know. But nothing like this. This was something totally just, I don't know what, he was in just absolute fear. There was no wanting to fight it or see what it was or anything. He was just completely, just like I said, really bad. The only time I've ever seen him even close like that is fireworks going off, and then he'll dive into our closet and shake, you know. But this was like that, but on steroids. I actually thought he was gonna have a heart attack or something, because he was just, his eyes were huge, and he's just sitting there like this, you know. And he didn't curl up either. That's the other weird thing. He just laid flat, like it was just the weirdest thing ever. He was just laying as flat as he could, you know. So, but yeah, Greg probably got the best view. I think he got a full deal. I did not. All I got was that, I watched that though for a while, that shimmering thing, you know. And I'm guessing that was the other one. And like I said, now that I think about it, I'm rationalizing that it was behind so much foliage that I'm seeing just a kind of a heat signature, you know. But it never at one point did I see little specks of white, which is usually what you see. Never did see that. Just seen shimmering gray. Strange. And there was no perfect shape either. It was just maybe like a ovalish round, maybe. When I look back at before now, at all the stuff that I did, riding bikes and everything, there's been some incidences where I think, okay, that wasn't what I thought it was. There was one incident was, there was an area in town, actually it was right in town, kind of, but it's been developed now so much more. It wasn't back then. We used to ride over this ridge, and there would be one spot where we'd go riding, and then you'd go around this area called the pits. Well, you had to go around because there was woods and stuff straight through. So it wasn't really easy you could probably walk through it, but you couldn't, you know, ride your bike through there just because of the way the trails were. So I had an issue with my bike, the fender plate or something. So I told my brothers, go on, I'll meet you around at the pits. So I'm sitting there wiring this thing on there, and you know, a pine cone. And I'd looking up, and there's no tree above me, and I thought, okay, well that's weird, you know. And then back at it again, and then you know, two more. And then I'm, hey, you know, I yell, I go, quit screwing around, you know. So I thought it was my brothers. And then I'm looking for them too. You know, I think I even might have grabbed one and threw back at something, and just where I thought they were. And nothing, you know. So finally I get back on the bike and take off down there, and then I remember talking to them, and yeah, good, you know, nice try, you guys screwing with me, and what are you talking about? Nothing. They just never, so I just blew that off, you know, until actually after I told my story, then my brother told me a story of his friend riding in the same area. He had came down the road. We used to park over toward the railroad tracks sometimes, and this area was between the highway in Grants Pass, and then there's railroad tracks on the other side, and it was a real popular place to ride back then. But anyways, my brother and his friend came down. They had their trucks parked there. It was toward the evening, so it was getting dark. His buddy had loaded up his bikes and then realized he was missing something on his bike, and I can't remember exactly what it was, rear plate or something. So he goes, oh, I'm just gonna walk up the road. He goes, it had to be from here to the last spot where we stopped, because I was just messing with it there. So my brother says, okay. He goes, I'll just see you at home, right? Well, my brother gets a call from him hours later to pick him up on the highway, because apparently, this is the story that he told me, was the kid walked back up the road, got the number plate or whatever, and was coming back to the truck, and a Bigfoot was in the middle of the road. And it scared him, and he said it chased him. I don't know if it chased him or what, but he ran from there all the way to where the highway meets, which is a long ways away if I showed you where it was at. And my brother had to pick him up, take him back around to his truck. And yeah, that was a weird story. And especially like where it's at, there's just houses. Even back then, there were still houses pretty much all around that area. So yeah, and then yeah, that's probably one of the biggest ones. And I've thought other things, you know, where I've been out and had stuff like that, sticks or something land next to me, but you don't think about it. Now I do. Now I think about all kinds. I've seen some weird stuff back then too. Seen trees broken and didn't think about them, and now I really pay attention. And now that I have paid attention, I've seen some really strange things in areas that I just never would have thought it'd be, you know. I do go back out looking for stuff, and I don't know if I'm looking for Bigfoot or looking for some kind of confirmation to say, you know, I'm not crazy to other people, I guess, or I don't know, because I'm still extremely afraid of that. Just, you know, that was not a good experience my first time, neither was the second one, you know. But so I don't know what it is. It's just a face your fears, but I don't want to come face to face with that fear. You know, I would like to get as much, you know, evidence or proof and show people, look, this is there's really something here. This, whether you believe it or not, just it needs to be looked into. There is something going on here, and yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff with it too. That's why I try not to focus on any of the crazy things. Yeah, like I know a lot of people, like, they talk about portals, and I don't discount that. I don't have a portal meter, so I can't really check for those, you know. So I try to keep it down to reality, you know. So yeah, so we've been out just finding what we can, and just the people that I've ended up with, like the Christian Wycherley, Rick Woods, another one. He's went out with us. Him and Christian's brother were with me when we went out to retrieve the recorder and found that trackway. That was weird because, you know, I said what the heck is it? I said, yeah, I'm out looking, and that was an instant of I'm out looking and I found, and then it was like, oh shit, you know, because when I found that trackway, it was me, and I was 50 yards or more from everybody. I didn't realize I had wandered that far away, and I was all excited because I was like, oh wow, you know, I finally found a print that I can say that I found, and goes with, you know, what I've kind of been telling people. And then at that instant, I'm like, oh crap, there's nobody here. And so I started yelling at those guys, get over here, because I didn't want to be, you know, it kind of reality of what happened years before just come right back, and just, it was kind of a weird feeling. Every time it's something like that, it's just a weird feeling, you know. So, especially when you don't have people around you. My mind has changed a lot on things as far as, you know, believing open. There was a time there still, though, I get, like I was saying before with you guys in Canada, was I would get angry, though, on some people where they, you know, they would post drawing a picture with a blob. This is Bigfoot, this is Bigfoot. And it's like, I would get mad because it just, to me, it detracted from people with real stories. And they may be, you know, I'm finding out now after talking with some real down-to-earth people that some of the weird stuff, like these orbs and stuff, has happened to them, not just the crazy ones. So crazy ones might not be so crazy. I just, like, if I really try to, if I'm finding something and I'm going to show somebody or at least post it, I'm going to make sure I've been through, like, no, it's not a blob. It's gonna show something. I'm not gonna have to draw a red circle around it, you know, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I'm more open, but I've also kind of been a skeptic also, to a point. At first I was. I'm actually starting to get less, not less skeptical, but less harsh, I guess, on certain people, because it's like, okay, this isn't, you know, this is what they're experiencing, and I need to just leave it at that, you know. And actually, talking to people, I feel, is better than them showing me a blob picture. I'd rather hear your story than a red circle. And then, you know, if I hear the story with that, you're like, hey, I took a picture, but it's really not that great. But I hear the story, and then it's like, okay, it's a lot better. And there's so many people that won't do this. They won't sit on camera. It's just, it's a lot, you know, and it's too much for them. And so I've had them come up to me and tell me some crazy stories, you know. And but yeah, I could be here all day if I told you all of them. Part two, yeah. It's definitely opened my mind. Makes you think of all kinds of weird things. Yeah, I really don't know what they are. I don't know if it's a relic hominid. I don't know whether it's a experiment and there's this alien factor. Like, you know, you get your mind thinking, because it's like, one way it's pretty much like, okay, this just fits to a like a Gigantopithecus or a relic hominid. It's like, okay, it's leaving footprints, it's doing this, it's mating at this time of year or whatever. But then you get this whole orbs and this whole portals and the weird stuff and the tracks that stop mid, you know, and then, so is there two presents that we're dealing with? Is there that? So I don't know, you know. I do know one thing, though, is a lot of people sit there and they don't like it when you say, there's a group that doesn't like it when you say, well, it's a hominid or a Gigantopithecus. And they say, well, they're not, they're a people. And I watched a program, it's called Unknown Cave of Bones on Netflix. Very good watch, because there's a species, a Homo naledi, and it was a little monkey, basically. And by the end of that show, you realize that just because this is a little chimpanzee, basically, that doesn't mean it's not a people. because they buried their dead miles in this cave and learned how to light fire, and they buried them, and they actually buried them with tools they're finding out. So it's like, yeah, it's a kind of a profound thing, because now you're talking all these monkeys basically that are doing things like we're doing. So just because it's a hominid or it's whatever, some kind of primate, doesn't mean that it's not a people. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have everything like we have, religion or whatever. I just sat there and went, wow, it was profound, because the show keeps going through when they find it, and then they're saying, oh no, that's not right. Oh, they must have fell in this cave, you know, and then they ruled that out, and then they said, well, how'd they get back in this cave a mile back in there with no light? Well, then they found out that they may have had fire. They found evidence of fire. And they're going, there's just no, because this thing literally is like chimpanzees. And they carried their own dead back in there, down this complex cave system, and into a spot where it took multiple of them to carry these bodies down there, and then go down the shaft and bury them in this chamber. And then they even wrote on the walls, they're finding out. So this whole show goes over all of that, and how just every time they find something, the other scientists are like, no, you guys are crazy. You know, kind of like Bigfoot, you guys are crazy. And no, and then the last thing they found was a child's body, and they x-rayed it, and then they found a tool in there, and it was placed in its hand. And they're going, this is crazy. So not only like the guy said, he goes, by the act of it placing it in its hand, it believes that there's an afterlife. Because a monkey, if it's a tool that it's valuable, the type of monkey is just going to take it. It's dead. He doesn't need it anymore. Why would they leave it and bury it with it? Do they believe in like an afterlife? You know, I get these arguments. A lot of people sit there and say, well, it's not a monkey. They're a people. It's like, well, you can still talk about it as a hominid, or you know, you can still talk about it in the evolutionary sense or whatever, and it still can be a people, if that makes sense. I don't have the hang up on that, you know. So it's just, I don't know. You know, you got to think of everything to get to the bottom of it. And I went out of the box with the AI, with that recording that I let you guys hear, and I told AI, and that's another thing, AI is kind of biased too. You can't tell it that you think it's a Bigfoot. You got to just say, what is this? It says, well, where was it taken? I said, I'm not going to tell you. It was somewhere in the world. Give me the best match to this. And it said howler monkey of South America. And then it said that it was more deeper pitch and tonal resonance, indicating a much larger animal, or much larger primate, but closely matches that of anything. Then I found out that New World monkeys of South America kind of have a certain, their tonal qualities are different than Africa. I didn't know that until I started going down that rabbit hole. So then I even went down the rabbit hole of, okay, well, what was the biggest monkey down in, or biggest hominid down in South America? And it was a Paranthropus, I think. I can't remember. So then I told AI, I said, well, what would this look like if it was, got bigger, like Bigfoot size is what I told it. Well, then it told me, well, it would have to move toward the highlands and more in the mountainous regions. Well, great. So then it did a little AI of it, and it looked like Bigfoot. I was like, that's pretty interesting. So never heard anybody going down that route. So with that from there, but it was just interesting, doing something like that. Not saying that is even it, but who knows? Keep your mind open. There's a lot of people just, they basically say you're crazy or ridicule, and I'm probably one of them. I even ridiculed some of the people with the red lines. I keep saying that, and I'm getting better. I'm trying not to. Yeah, But the problem is too, there's a lot of misinformation. So there's a lot of people doing that on purpose to make everybody crazy. So, and I do notice getting kind of into this is there's these different camps, and they're all on the same page, but they're not. They fight each other, and it's like, just get over it. Just, you know, get out there and let's figure this thing out. You know, there's no, you're not going to figure it out by fighting, that's for sure. Yeah, it's just, if you don't believe the other side, then just take it with a grain of sand and do what you can believe. Like the portal thing, I don't disbelieve or believe. I believe it's totally possible, but like I said, I don't have a portal meter, so I'm not going to try to go down that road. And when I get one, you know, then I can. Or if, like I said, if there's some way to kind of corroborate that with, like I mentioned earlier, the cell phone thing. I guess I better probably mention that with the guy with the cell phone out in the middle of nowhere. He told me the story, and they're hours out of cell range with his buddy walking on this. I don't want to tell what it is because I don't want to really get him. He's asked me not to say that, but he came on this anomaly, I'll say, and he went to take a picture of it. And as soon as he bent down to take the picture of this, his cell phone exploded with text, and he got cell service. And he thought, well, that's crazy. As soon as he backed off, he didn't have it anymore. And I thought, well, that's weird, you know. That's could be this portal thing people are talking about. But the scientific part of that is it's a cell phone, and it could be pinging a tower. So if he could have got, and if anybody else out there ever happens some weird thing like that, go get your cell phone records, see if they can see what tower that was pinging. If he all of a sudden, he's pinging a tower in Northern California or Southern Oregon, and all of a sudden now his phone is in Ohio or China, that's a significant, that's evidence. That's not a portal meter, but it's pretty damn close. So, you know, that you, especially when you've got a set of photographs before and after with a GPS mark, and your phone's pinging a tower there, yeah, you've got something now that's credible that can be, now it's like, okay, well, we got some way to look into this, I guess. So, I don't know. Just throwing that one out there because, so yeah, if you think of stuff, try to think of a scientific way to quantify it and to measure it, you know, not just say, well, oh, it's that, and this is what they are, what they do. It's, let's figure out a way to figure out what that is and what they do. So that's where I'm at and from.